Welcome once again to beautiful Palm Springs, California, where people come from all over the world to experience the sights and sounds of desert living. Some come to enjoy the scenic beauty of the area. Some come for the seemingly endless championship golf courses. Some come to energize their lives through recreation and outdoor living, while some come to enjoy the unique shopping opportunities of this desert community. But others are coming searching for spiritual renewal and inner peace. Desert Chapel Ministries of Palm Springs, California is dedicated to giving people that opportunity. It's an opportunity to find peace with God and spiritual restoration. So sit back, relax, and allow our pastor teacher Fred Donaldson to share with you how you too can find satisfaction for your soul and renewal for your spirit.
I'm going to begin a new series today on the family for a couple of reasons. Number one is I am a new grandpa. I still feel 20, but I'm a new grandpa. My daughter, who is not here leading us today, had a baby boy. Why is it always 4 in the morning? Can I just ask? So that was Tuesday morning at 4 in the morning. Matthew Eric Long was born, 7 pounds 2 ounces. They took emergency surgery because they tried to induce, because she got stuck, and they tried to induce, and then the baby went into distress, and heartbeat went from 150 down to 70, and so they went in, got the critter. She's fine, he's fine. Believe me, he doesn't sleep as much as he should, but he's fine. And the second reason is, how many of you watched the Prince William and Kate over the weekend? Raise your hand. Men, let me ask you, how many of you didn't want to watch, but if you were going to be home, that's what you were going to watch? Like me. I can tell you, my wife DVR'd this thing, and then it didn't matter where you went. You couldn't get away from this dog and pony show. And then here's the worst part. Because I wouldn't watch that. I mean, I'd watch, tennis, or I'd have watched marbles before I would have watched that. I'd have done anything. But it was on the thing, and then I found myself getting sucked in. I didn't want to watch it, and then once you started watching, well, that's kind of nice. And anybody else like that? Oh, that's kind of nice, and the peck and that kind of thing. Then a double peck, and you could tell they were in love. I've seen that look before. Been a long time, but I've seen that look before. And what was great about the nation was, I think the nation caught the enthusiasm that was going on in England. Everybody was excited. There was tremendous joy, not only because they got the day off, but there was joy about the occasion. I mean, 1 million people showed up there. 2 billion people watched this thing. 2 billion people. And you say, why? What was the excitement? What was the joy? Well, I think part of it was that they had been so disappointed with Prince Charles and Princess Diana. I think there was such disappointment and hurt over that whole situation that now there is renewed hope that somehow maybe the Lord can redeem and do something that will last. And that's where we are, I think, in our culture. That we're in a place where the family is so important, and the fractures that have occurred are so prominent. I would venture a guess that nobody doesn't know anybody or hasn't been involved in some way, shape, or form in a family fracture. I know my folks were divorced. And so you deal with this, and we just do it. But this is a phenomenon in our culture. And at the turn of the century, divorce was in single digits. That's how rare it was. By the time you come to the 30s, it was 1 in 7. The 60s, 1 in 4. And today, every 30 seconds, somebody gets a divorce. The overall toll is 54% of marriages, but that doesn't take into account, or that takes into account those who are multiple offenders. If you know what I mean. In other words, 38% of first marriages fail, and of those that fail, 79% of those, 80% get married again. And those who marry again, 44% of those who marry again have a second marriage failure. And so it's an ongoing kind of thing. In fact, 20% of police fatalities happen for domestic disturbances. I mean, it's a major deal. And then you talk about a cultural shift. The census that just happened last year tells us that we now have record numbers of couples living together. We have record numbers of women giving birth to babies without being married. And we have record numbers of kids being raised in single-family homes. All at the same, that the family is changing, but the foundation of a culture is the family. And the foundation of a congregation is a family. And so I want to make sure that we get in solid footing. And I want to give some reasons for why I think we're sliding, and then some things we can do. I want to give real quickly 4 reasons why I think we're sliding. Number 1 is that we have underdeveloped relational skills. I can tell you that I went all the way through undergraduate school and never had one class on relationships. Not one class. It wasn't until I got in graduate school that you started having classes on relationships, how to go. And I think this is singly the most overlooked area of. I think this should be a high school class. This should be a college class. How to get along with people, understanding the various personalities, the strengths and weaknesses, and things like that, and knowing how to relate to. More important, that I think, than skills at whatever skill level you may have. The most important skill you can develop is the skill of getting along with people, because of what the Scripture says in 1 Corinthians 13. Love never fails. It doesn't. People fail, but love never fails. And somebody sent me an email that I want to read this morning. A man walks out in the street and catches a taxi going by. He gets into the taxi and the cabbie says, "Perfect timing. You're just like Frank." The passenger said, "Who?" Cabbie, "Well, Frank Feldman. He's the guy who did everything right all the time, like coming along when you needed a cab. Things like that happened to Frank Feldman every single time." Passenger, "Well, there's always a few clouds over everybody." No, not Frank Feldman. He was a terrific athlete. He could have won the Grand Slam in tennis. He could play golf with the pros. He sang like an opera baritone and danced like a Broadway star. You should have heard him play the piano. He was an amazing guy. Passenger says, "Well, he sounds like he's somebody really special." "Oh, there's more." "No, he had a memory like a computer. He remembered everybody's birthday. He knew all the wines and which foods to order, which fork to eat them. He could fix anything. Not like me. I can't change a fuse. The whole street blacks out. But Frank Feldman, he could do everything right." "Wow, he was some kind of guy then," said the passenger. Cabbie, "Well, he was always knew the quickest way to get through traffic and avoid traffic jams, but not like me. I always seemed to get struck in them. But Frank, he never made a mistake. He really knew how to treat a woman, how to make her feel good. He would never answer her back, even if she was in the wrong. And his clothing was always immaculate, shoes highly polished. He was a perfect man. He never made a mistake. No one could ever measure up to Frank Feldman." Passenger, "That's an amazing fellow. How did you meet him?" Cabbie, "Well, I never actually met Frank. He apparently died, but I'm married to his stupid wife." We don't know how to get along with people, and we do things accidentally that bring chasms in relationships. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that we're not good in conflict resolution. By that I mean that typically you will not get a class ever on how to get along with people. First of all, people skills, and then if there's a fracture in the relationship, how do you repair the fracture? Conflict resolution. Most people have never had a class on conflict resolution, so I can tell you what they do is whatever mom and dad did, that's what they do. Whatever they modeled, that's what they do. If mom used to go in and shut the door, then I'll go in and shut the door. Or there are two different ways people approach this. One is the cowboy style. Let's shoot this baby out the OK Corral right now. We're going to talk this out. The second one is the Eskimo, where you kind of go up and freeze them, and you may have a slammed door or something, but you just get away, and you got to get away. And then you've got the combination of one who wants to shoot it out, and the other one wants to just get away. So they jump in the car and drive away. But whatever you were raised with, we typically do the same kind. The same kind of thing, because we have not been taught in conflict resolution. Even though the Scripture says, "Be angry and sin not, and don't let the sun go down in your wrath." We're not even sure what that means, how that works, and we're going to talk about that more later. Thirdly is an improper understanding of the goal of marriage. I mean, why do we get married anyway? Proverbs chapter 24 says this: "Through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. And by knowledge all the rooms are filled with precious and pleasant riches." Great memories. In other words, it says when you begin to understand these three things, you begin to understand knowledge. That's the information. Understanding, that is knowing more instruction on what to do. Then wisdom is the application of that. As you know things and you know how to apply that in your life, what it says is you build a whole reservoir, a whole book of memories. What God has in mind for the family is a collection of memories, so that no matter what room you go into, they are precious and pleasant memories. I can tell you, when I walk in the family room now, I can still smell matches, because my oldest son Joe was a pyro. He used to, when we go outside, he'd light matches. He'd throw matches at the kids, and kind of play with them. We'd walk in, something smells. Oh, I don't know. Can't tell you what happened here, Dad. And then they would go outside. They knocked the mailbox off with a golf cart we had. They ran into the neighbor's. They ran into the neighbor's garage. Then to cover their tracks, they went into our garage, got out some paint that looked like it was the same, and they painted over their mistake, but it was the wrong color. And the neighbor came out and said, "I can't figure out what happened to my garage. It's a big ding right here, and then someone painted the wrong color." I had no idea till years later. That was my kids. Then a picture in our family room that used to have a glass over it, but doesn't now because a ball hit it and shattered the glass. You know what? Those are precious memories. They are. As you look, at the time now, any one of those things they had got swatted for. But the reality is, as you look back, those are precious and pleasant memories, which is what God has in mind for us. That we'll begin to build a book, a family book, when we go back and think about this room or that room. I mean, this will always be, Melissa's room. This will always be the boy.